Dmitry Medvedev called for a partition of Ukraine among Romania, Poland, and Hungary to stop a global war. His remarks were harshly criticized by Poland. They said they do not have this kind of desire, but Russia tries to create a new conflict between Ukraine and its allies. Dmitry Medvedev, the vice president of the Security Council in Russia, recently made a highly controversial statement proposing a peaceful division of Ukraine as a preferable alternative to a world war. In support of his argument, he cited the aspirations of neighboring countries such as Poland, Hungary, and Romania. Additionally, he acknowledged the likelihood of a new global conflict. The remarks were made shortly after the NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg declared that Ukraine belongs to the North Atlantic Military Alliance. Medvedev remarked, "The world is unwell, and it is highly probable that we are on the brink of a new world war. But is it unavoidable? No, it is not." He went on to the statement that Russia was dragged into the war due to the conflict between two factions of the same people. In this context, he criticized the talks about the ecological agenda as a form of deceit, arguing that the issue of humanity's survival is at stake, and he emphasized the looming threat of a nuclear attack. The ex-president of Russia declared that the country could resort to using nuclear weapons first if it faces aggression that jeopardizes its very existence. He also expressed the opinion that a peaceful division of Ukraine would be a preferable alternative to the country's potential NATO membership. He commented that greed, hatred, and ambition are more potent than rationality and sound thinking. Perhaps Poland could take control of the western regions of Ukraine, but we must acknowledge that Hungary and Romania have also harbored these ambitions for decades. Furthermore, Medvedev added that Polish leaders have been talking with Ukrainian authorities regarding the formation of a confederation, and he speculated that this could potentially lead to a union similar to the one that existed in the past. He claimed that Poland and other nations are eager to enact their plans before the window of opportunity closes, and that Russia and the representatives of the collective West have yet to reach any fundamental agreements. Medvedev also noted that all European politicians are reliant on the United States, even those who are more subdued and have normal relations with Russia. He made a similar call last year and proposed the partition of Ukraine with Poland, Hungary, and Russia claiming most of its territories. In his recent post, he repeated Moscow's often repeated claim that Poland is interested in regaining its historical territories that are currently part of Ukraine. Medvedev referred to the present-day Ukrainian state as a misconception resulting from the dissolution of the Soviet Union. He also mentioned the existence of millions of Russian-speaking citizens who have been mistreated by the current government in Kiev, which he referred to as Nazi. Medvedev emphasized the importance of protecting these individuals through special military operations that target the enemy with unrelenting force. He further stated that sub-Ukraine is of no value to Russia, as what they truly need is Great Russia. Stanislav Zarin, a Polish official, strongly criticized the recent comments made by him, calling Medvedev useless. He suggested that Medvedev's statement was an attempt to divert attention from the Russian forces' poor performance in Ukraine, stating, "It seems that Medvedev needs to cover up the evidence of Russian failure in Ukraine." Regarding the Ukrainian people, Medvedev suggests that there are just over 20 million citizens out of the total population of 45 million who remain in the country. He claimed that the remaining Ukrainians are forced to live in a state of anxiety and fear, and that they are prepared to leave for any destination. Recently, NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg traveled to Kiev for the first time since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in order to show his support for the country. Ukraine is currently gearing up to launch a counteroffensive against Russian forces. Jens Stoltenberg asserted that Ukraine's future belongs to NATO and pledged to assist Kiev in transitioning from the Soviet-era equipment and practices to NATO standards. During a joint press conference with Ukrainian President Zelensky, Stoltenberg emphasized that Ukraine's rightful place is within the Euro-Atlantic community and in NATO. He also stated that the alliance support would eventually make this objective achievable for Ukraine. Medvedev cautioned that if the G7 nations implemented a ban on exports to Russia, Moscow would retaliate by terminating the Black Sea grain agreement that facilitates crucial grain exports from Ukraine. According to the media, the G7 nations are contemplating a near-total embargo on exports to Russia. Moscow has frequently warned that it would withdraw from the grain deal, which is set to conclude on May 18. Reportedly, the G7 nations are considering a reversal of their current sanctions approach. Under the proposed new framework, exports to Russia would be automatically prohibited unless they are included on a designated list of permitted goods. In the current system, goods can be exported to Russia unless they are explicitly blacklisted. Moscow has repeatedly opposed the terms of the Black Sea grain deal, which is the only significant diplomatic achievement during the conflict in Ukraine. It has warned that it will withdraw from the initiative before the May 18 deadline if the West doesn't remove restrictions on Russian agricultural and fertilizer exports. The agriculture ministers of the G7 countries have stated in a meeting that they support a full extension, full implementation, and expansion of the deal for exporting Ukrainian grain through the Black Sea.